This is not related, kind of related. Is Emily's pregnant, right?
She is.
Okay.
Due in May. We have a boy coming.
I can't remember who all's pregnant and not in this church.
Listen, she is like
I
really looking pregnant.
I know, but I am never confident until 8 months that they're actually, I just never want to, you know what I'm saying? Like you just don't.
And it's a boy.
It's a boy.
Wow.
Robert Harry Dobbs the fourth.
Oh, is he going to go by Harry?
Harry.
Oh, I love it.
Fast forward to that night. So everybody's like, hey, be sure and tell your dad happy birthday. You know, funny
Right.
thing. We get to dinner and we're like, aren't you so excited? And, you know, there's 3 generations of Robby Dobbs here. There's fixing to be a 4th. You know, Harry's going to be here. And we talk for a while. And then literally my dad goes, who's Harry? Because none of us have ever gone by Harry.
Yeah.
And he was like, he just assumed that we were going to call him Robby also. So there'd be 4 Robbies or Robs.
Right.
Yeah.
Who's Harry?
He's like, who's Harry? I was like, it's your great grandson. Oh,
He could be Bob.
That's incredible
That's
to
what my
have
dad goes
4
by now.
generations.
Bob.
Okay.
That's incredible to have 4 generations. together.
Robert is one of the most versatile nicknames,
Oh, for real.
nicknameable names,
Yeah.
I think, in the world. Like it's wild how many variations you can do of that. Bob, Bobby, Rob, Robbie, Rob. Like there's just
Yeah. So my dad as a boy, he was Bobby.
yeah.
And then when he got older, he went to Bob,
Yeah.
which was really funny because when I'd call him at work, he'd go, Bob Dobbs. I was like, Dad, you got to do something different.
Bob Dobbs.
So then my mom calls him Rob
Okay.
and me Robbie.
Well, there you go.
And then you run it. Then you go down the Bernie. The
you
Robert,
could go by Bert, I guess.
the whole
but-
Bert. Like that's a whole
And-
nother.
And since it's the same, you have the option of Junior or
Yeah.
You know,
or
make some
Trip
nick-
or whatever.
Trey,
Yeah.
or
Mhm.
you can.
It's a
play off
versatile
of the
name.
name.
Wow.
Well, I'm excited about our guest today.
Yeah, we got a lot to talk about. We're already chatting.
Obviously, we're
Yeah.
It's time
already
to
talking.
let's get started.
Yeah, let's go.
Hello, and welcome to the Almost Amazing podcast from the City Rise Network. Hosted by Jennifer Dennis and produced by me, Justin Kello, we're a podcast that was supposed to be focused on parenting, but we've kind of lost the plot along the way. Honestly, we don't know what this podcast is about, but we talk to incredible people who love Jesus, and our hope is to provide encouragement and fun whenever possible. If our lack of clear direction bothers you, we apologize, but no one is making you listen to this podcast, unless you're married to Jennifer. Andy, thanks for listening.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Almost Amazing podcast. We're excited you're here today. It's a great show. Welcome. And I'm here with a celebrity, an official celebrity. Justin,
right.
I walk in through church on Sunday
Yeah.
and I see
Well, I have a hype woman. I have a hype woman.
Jennifer
now, apparently.
Cannon at the greeting bar, like where like at the help desk. She's got her phone up and she's like, did you hear Justin's on People? Justin's on People. Justin's on People. And I walk by and they're like, have you heard? And she goes, Justin's on People. And I go,
Yeah.
it's the video? The video? And she's like, it's the video. So you do have hype people. You got
Yes.
picked up by people.com.
Yeah, so people.com reached out to me a few weeks ago to ask me about the video, but they don't tell you, there's no follow-up. There's not like, okay, well, we'll post this on this date.
Yeah,
so
you
like,
don't know what they're doing with it.
I just talked to them. They answered.
We all know that from our extensive experience.
Yeah.
with
Well, they
people.
just emailed me some questions. I emailed back and that was it. And then I never knew when it came back out, but I'd noticed over the weekend, I'd gotten an uptick of not like crazy amount, but that video that we're talking about had 6 million views, but it started getting more views again. I was like, what's happening? And I didn't even think about it. And then on Sunday, I was here taking pictures for a baptism or for baby dedication. And Jennifer just like stopped me and she's like, you're on People. Do you know that? You're on People. And I was like, oh, it did come out. That's great. You know, send me the link. And then she did proceed the rest of the day. I think she led every conversation with that.
Yes.
So what's funny is it was about a video that I wasn't super pumped about everybody knowing about, which sounds weird. I mean, why would you post a video if you don't want people to see it?
Right. You've posted hundreds of videos.
Right. So I never know which one's going to blow up, but I'm honest and I'm open. And this video in particular, to me, it was TMI. It wasn't inappropriate and it wasn't like wrong, but it was a lot of information about my kid that maybe most people don't want to hear.
Sure.
And so when it blew up, I was like, oh my gosh. So just to be as vague as possible, it's about, a parasite that kids can get in their bottoms, like in their bottoms. And so
I think actually just calling it what it is so much less weird than what you just
it was
together.
a pinworms, if you know.
There we go.
Well, in the video, people are talking about pinworms. Be like, yeah, I got on my foot once. Like, no, that's different. That's ringworm.
So we're not, we don't have to go in. But what I want to say is, I think we're all familiar with it, but nobody's ever actually talking about it. So which you were willing to talk about.
One, I was not familiar with it. So when it happened to my son and my wife was so chill about it, I was like, we need to go to the ER. Like, what has happened? My son, there's animals inside of his body. And she's like, no, it's over-the-counter medication. I was like, you got to be kidding me. You just go to HEB?
You live with the knowledge that this could happen.
I was like, you just go to HEB and pick this up?
No big deal out of it.
And I was very
mortified.
concerned. I was very concerned. But she's like, no, you just go to HEB and get the medication. I was like, you got to be kidding me. She's like, no. I was like, I did not know it was that common. And so that's why I made the video. So I was like, if I didn't know about this, I'm sure other people didn't know about this.
Sure. Well, that comment section was really one for the ages.
Well, it was wild. But anyway, it blew up online. That was fun. And then People Magazine saw it and they're like, we're going to post about it. I'm like, great. And then I never thought they would. And then finally they did. And so,
which leads me to my next, when Kristen's like, yeah, whatever. This is what you do. I think because you've done really well with the default parent thing. I like the idea of the dramatic parent and the calm parent. And I think that in most couples, now let me just say, if you run across a calm parent with a calm parent, those people are not really fun about like board games. I'm obviously the dramatic one. Andy's the calm one.
Sure.
But there's this video. It says there's always one crazy person and one sane person, and somehow they always get married.
Yeah.
But I like, Chris is like, no big deal. Just go to the.
Yeah.
I feel like both of you are pretty calm.
Yeah. But yeah. So there's all sorts of versions of that. I've been thinking about that lately. In every marriage, there's always one person at this and one person at that. And there's like TikToks about it. To me, my thing I think about all the time is in marriage, there's always two types of people. One person who always takes the lint trap out of the dryer and removes the lint. And another person who is convinced that there's really no lint happening because they never, because someone else is always doing it. Like, yes. So there's one that's like very diligent about cleaning the lint trap. And one is just like, what are you talking about? The lint trap's never full. It's like, yeah, because I'm always emptying it. I am the one saving our family from sure death because I am emptying this lint trap.
I want to know how many, I'm glad we don't have a comment section on this video.
Yeah.
But why? Okay. So I'm the lint trap.
We do just know about it.
I'm the lint person.
Okay.
And I'm like, why am I convinced that my dryer is going to bust into a fire any day?
I think there was some like after school special or something that we saw.
Something in my brain is completely stressed out about the lint situation.
Yes, I am that way too. Kristen's very chill about it. And we've never gotten close to our house burning down because she's chill about it. But like for me, I'm like, every time I'm checking it, I was like, I gotta make sure. And there's just like a little thin layer. I'm like, I get
But where did the fear come from?
I don't know. I'm sure we heard one, horror story as a child. Well, it's like I'm terrified of trains and train crossings because we watched in second grade. I don't know why they showed us this video, but we literally watched like this video of these trains plowing into these buses.
Oh, no.
As like a PSA of like, this is why you got to be quiet, kids, because the driver needs to listen.
This is why you got to be quiet on the bus.
But literal like simulation reenactments.
Thank you for using the sledgehammer.
Trains plowing. And so now I am terrified of train crossings.
I'm terrified.
I am very cautious. Like if they're way down there, I'm never the one that's like trying to beat the arms or whatever.
Okay, so this is interesting because I live, I think, on a train track. Like I'm on a crossing.
Okay.
I can feel the train.
Yeah.
Like shaking my home.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting to me, once you've been around them for a while, how you know when to gauge if they're really coming, if they're not coming.
Wow.
And I will now just fly through as the arms go down. I'm just like, no, running because I hate getting caught on the other side of the train tracks away from where I live.
I feel you. Well, my experience as a child made me that impossible. I'm terrified of
so I'm afraid that I'll be trapped on the other side. And where I live, the train gets stuck there all the time, Justin. I cannot tell you.
No.
It is a daily occurrence that the trains it's coming across the tracks and it's like, oh wait, hold up.
Time to slow down and stop.
We're gonna stop.
Yeah.
One thing shocking about that is how many people will will sit there and wait for the train that is not moving. And there are many ways to get out. You can back up, you can turn around, you can go a different way. So many different ways. Justin, they will sit there for upwards of an hour waiting for a train that is not moving.
Wow.
Obviously, they're getting paid by the hour.
I was about to say, I can't believe a train's there for an hour. That's awful.
So I've been so afraid, but I realized that if the train is stopped, you can find like a staircase between the train. Do you think you would take it? Would you take
You're saying if you're walking, not if you're in your
if
car,
you're walking,
obviously.
not if you're in your car. If you're walking,
You just abandoned
if we're walking
your
our
car.
dog, right?
Okay.
Or we're walking, and let's say you're caught. But I realized, and I was watching this man. He's walking toward the train. It's completely stopped, and I'm like,
Did you?
and I'm watching out the window during my reflective time,
Yeah.
and I'm like, that dude's going straight. Does he not see it? It's like not a problem. I'm
Yeah.
like, what is he? And I always thought I'd have to roll under the train, which I felt like wasn't a
Pretty
very
risky.
bright-
Pretty
risky. I'm
Yeah.
terrified of being caught.
Yeah.
And he just keeps walking straight. And what he did was he walked between the two train tracks over the steps.
So now you feel like you can do that next time.
I'm so excited to try that.
Yeah.
I
that's
think
great.
Andy would definitely be against that. But if the train starts going, it's going to go
It takes
slow.
forever to go. Yes.
It takes forever, and I can just jump off.
Yes.
All of that to say, I wish that's what I wanted to share with you all today, but that is not it.
Oh, wow.
My battery went dead yesterday.
Oh, no.
It completely died.
And your phone, yeah,
Let me
that's
say,
tough.
if there's a skill that I would like to go to a camp for, it is how to change the battery in my car. I want to learn how to do
Okay,
that.
you know it's not that hard, right?
It can't be that hard.
It is not that
I was
hard.
watching from a distance. I'm a little afraid of getting electrically shocked, but I was watching. It took them about 6 minutes. We have to pay for that.
It's not hard.
I thought I've got to get a little
You should
training.
have gone to YouTube. It's so easy.
Is it so
There's
easy?
There's a sound on TikTok right now that said, how hard could it be? Boys do it. And it's how hard could it be? Boys do it. You know, it's like, it is this girl who was realizing she could do basic things on her car. It's like, how hard can it be? Like guys do it. And the battery is one of the things that's way easier than you think it is. It's so simple.
It's so simple.
Yes,
So I'm going to
yes,
check
yes.
into that because it's like, what if I become someone who can change batteries and I could be that person?
Put on your
like,
resume.
Hey, I can change the battery for you.
Yeah, you could do it.
So anyway, that can go right under,
Yeah.
balloon animals.
I have a question. Have you, unrelated to anything you talked about, but it is on my mind. Did you finish The Crown yet? Because The Crown is over.
No, I haven't finished it.
Do you have any interest in finishing The Crown?
No, I'm halfway through, but you know what we just started?
What?
The new season of, what's it called? It's
Must be so
it's
good.
it's the where the autistic people.
Yes. Love on the Spectrum or
It just began the new season of Love on the Spectrum. Let me
Yes.
just say,
so cute.
y'all, you guys, I rarely
You
send
start with
you.
you start with the Australian one or the New Zealand one because it originally was in New Zealand, and those
Precious.
guys, because their accents are even more precious. Yes.
I cannot tell you how precious these shows are,
Yes.
and they are so genuine.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite things is they'll take a person and they're like, they tell you what they love and then what they don't like,
Mhm.
and then
very
it's-
specific. Yeah.
and it's so weird,
Yeah.
so specific. It'll be like, Janie likes walks on the beach and seashells. She is afraid of scary clowns and
Yeah.
large noises.
yeah.
But all of that to say, they have this new character. He's in South Carolina, so he's a Southerner,
Oh.
and he's living with these other two guys. And the preciousness level was so high that I had
Yeah.
to pause it and squeal.
Me and
I
my
was
wife-
like,
yeah.
Are
we
you
haven't
watching
started.
it?
We haven't started, but we do like
Oh,
it. We
my
were
goodness.
finishing The Crown. We just finished The
Justin,
Crown 2 days
I'll
ago.
go finish The Crown so we can have a discussion. But this new season
Yeah.
with this new little guy in
Can't
South
wait.
Carolina,
Can't wait.
oh my goodness. And he's looking at the cameraman, and the cameraman's like, hey, how's it going? He's like, how are my eyebrows? Are they okay? How are my eyebrows? And they're like, they seem good. He's like, is it too much? And you can tell that whoever's training him is like, okay, you got to watch your eyebrows. They get a little intense. He's like, how are my eyebrows?
Yeah.
Like, tell me.
No, yeah, Love on the Spectrum on Netflix is really good. It's just basically, if you're not familiar with the premise, it's a documentary about
Yes.
adult people with autism who want to go and have a relationship.
They wanna find love.
They want to actually get in a committed relationship, get married.
Yes. And I'm not sure
Yeah.
what season we're in, but there are a couple of new characters on this season that I'm in. I'm all
Cute.
in for every show I'm in.
Yeah.
Anyway, well, it's been so good visiting, but it's not just you and me today. I have a guest.
We have a guest.
I have a guest. And it is their anniversary. So today we're going to talk about the ministry. We're going to talk about being married for a long time. And we're going to talk about all of that right now. I don't know why I got tickled. We're going to talk about all of that right now. That's why I'm really excited. We have such a great guest today and a little bit of an evening out of the show. For the last, I think, 8 times we've had the women's ministry of any ministry. It's been the women's ministry so many times.
Yeah. Well, the women's ministry got a lot going on, but 2, Kristen Campbell is an avid listener of the show. And so anytime she's got a guest speaker, she's like, hey, when we talk to her, I'm like, let's go.
Today is the day that we even it out.
Yeah.
And we brought in Robby Dobbs. He is the campus pastor at the Westview Baptist campus at City Rise. He's also the men's minister, small groups pastor.
Yep.
He's got a lot going on. Welcome, Robby.
Thank you. It's about time. About time you balanced it out.
Yeah.
Give us men a shot.
I'm telling you, maybe it's just that women sometimes have more to say. Maybe that's it.
Robby will prove him
They
wrong
talk
today.
more.
He's got plenty to say.
It doesn't mean they have more to say.
Oh, yep. That can be true. My husband would say something like that. So you guys, the men's ministry is doing really well. Well, tell us a little bit about what's going on with the men's ministry.
Men's ministry is booming. Is that a good way to say it? We got a lot going on. Differently than women's ministry, we're not so much big event oriented, but it's much more intentional. So there's a lot of intentionality happening. For instance, this morning, I do a breakfast every Thursday morning at the Buffalo Grill. We had 16 men there this morning. So
that's amazing.
Yeah. So it's all ages and stages of life coming together, eating good food and opening up God's word in the middle of Buffalo Grill. So
that's great. And that's a good breakfast.
Yeah. And so it's a little more intentional. A lot of our men's ministry is done almost kind of behind the scenes because it's intentional personal discipleship. And we're pairing up men with men who are walking with them in a very intentional type of way, but they're meeting at all what's convenient for their schedule. So all different days, all different opportunities and all those kind of things versus having a big retreat where everybody comes together and those kind of things.
Which you still do. You do a
Which we
retreat
still do.
and those are great. And you have
I can say with full, I guess, experience that so many marriages have been just come so forward in times of frustration, even close to separation, close to giving up. Marriage is on their last leg. And a lot of times it takes, I hate to say this and you guys can correct me, but for a man to get to the point to reach out, sometimes it takes significant challenge. And it's a lot of times you begin these relationships in turmoil.
Yes. In crisis. Yes.
And so I have seen the other side where so many of these marriages have been healed and restored through the men's ministry. Yeah.
So the best way I can describe it, we use this terminology all the time in discipleship. Desperation will drive your desires. Desires will drive your devotion. Devotion will drive your actions, and your actions will drive your outcome. So we think of it in terms of usually they have to get to a place of desperation before the desire and
before everything else comes along.
So what we try to do is kind of reverse engineer it. Let's work on your devotions and see if we can change your desires before you get and change what you're desperate for. So you don't get to a place of, because like you said, most of the time guys come forward to discipleship. You're like, why didn't you come a year ago? Why didn't you come 5 years ago? Why didn't you approach us before it got to this point of frustration, crisis?
So I think that's a great question. That's where I want to dive in a little bit. And we've talked about this a little bit on the show, is that relationships for men are so different than women. It's so different. I feel like it's harder. It's not quite as easy. So I want you to speak into, why is it so difficult for men to have those adult friendships?
A lot of very different reasons. I will push back a little bit. Men have a lot of relationships. They don't have the depth of relationships, the healthy relationships always that they need. Does that make sense? So like I may only have 2 or 3 close friends. I'll know a lot of guys, but you're going to be more protective and more reluctant to get vulnerable, open, honest with fewer people. Does that make sense?
Yes.
It takes us a lot longer to be in relationship with somebody before we tell them everything about us.
That I don't know why I'm caught in this question. So what does it take? What does it take when you have someone that's maybe new to the church, they're checking things out? How do you get them to the point where they're willing to be open and just,
there's no shortcut. It's time. It's, you got to invest time and energy and be there and build that relationship, that bridge. And before you're going to get the right to be able to speak into the deep places of their lives.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting. There's like a chemical that's released when guys do hard, like anybody, when guys do a hard thing or a challenging thing or something difficult with someone, that's where they bond. Like women, we bond over, ooh, I like that color. We bond the other way too, but a unique chemicals release with men when they are in a challenging situation with someone.
Yeah. So we do a lot with the Texas expedition, which is built off of the Eldridge Wild at Heart mentality. So there is that idea of an intentional God-given masculine heart, which beats and is energized and passionate about different things than women. It is, you want to be the hero of the story. You want to be a part of something significant. You want to lead something to greatness. You want to feel those things. But a lot of men have some background and brokenness and even accepted some lies from the enemy about their identity and who they are, that they've kind of lost that. Does that make sense? Or they've been told to repress that. It's a better way to say it.
Or they've expanded that, but it's in their business.
Or they expanded it and replaced it with something not what God intended it to be. Right. And the same thing, back to our equation of desperation. Look, if I bought into a lie because my relationship with my father was bad, and that created in me this identity that I'm worthless, I'm going to overcome that by proving to everybody how great I am. But I'm going to do it through how much money I can make, how successful I am, see what I'm saying? And then that becomes your desire that drives your devotion, which leads to an action and an outcome. So, but a lot of times men they don't know they're even carrying that baggage. They don't know it's there. That's part of the long-term development of walking in a relationship to begin. It takes, and even for me personally, it took somebody else outside to say, yeah, I think you're holding on some things that you've bought into that are lies. Lies because of how you perceive something, lies because of how you were raised, all that kind of stuff. And so part of that process is coming in and going, okay, because, it's never going to get healed in the darkness. You got to bring it into the light. And the only way you can bring it into the light is sometimes somebody else has to expose it for you. That's part of the discipleship process. Does that make sense?
It makes complete sense. I think
our natural man instinct, don't ever let anybody get that deep and know, because then that makes me weak. That makes me look
right. Man, you guys it's a tough deal to be raised. And I think when you say dad issues, like to be raised by people who aren't always good at the relationship piece, then you're raised to tough it up, suck it in, do not express it, don't show weakness. Then you're told you're in charge of your family. You need to lead them. You can't be weak. You provide for them. And then
your boss is telling you, you need to lead, you need to be strong. Culturally, everywhere you turn, it feeds the insecurity and inadequacies you already have, because everybody's telling you to man up, right?
It's so true.
And you're going, I'm trying.
That's all I'm doing.
That's all I do all day is man up. But really part of a manning up is we've lost track of what that really means. It's the courage amidst fear. It's the meekness is not weakness. It's that there's true manliness exists not in a external production of what I can do, but in the attitude of the heart that motivates me to do it.
I love how I think the power of what you're saying is not necessarily tough it up. It is be vulnerable before Christ, and he will give you what you need.
He'll smooth off the edges.
He will restore you. It's more like breaking down rather than it is building up. And again, in our discipleship, to some degree,
I got to get to the end of me for him to do the most in me. Right. At some point, I've got to surrender those areas of, because for instance, I have a great father. My parents were married 65 years, great marriage, great. But my dad's mom got pregnant. She was in the military. She was an Army nurse, got pregnant, had my dad out of wedlock. I mean, they eventually married, but didn't work out. And my dad was raised by his grandparents who never had any kids. He didn't have a father to model to him what it meant to be a father. He got saved. Christ radically saved him, and he did his best based on what he knew to be a godly father. But there are things where he struggled because
he didn't know. You don't know what you don't know.
He didn't know. And he had 2 boys. And so you're like, and he didn't have a sibling. He didn't have a father in his life. He had a grandfather who was older and a farmer and very meek, who never had kids. And so, yeah, it was a struggle for him.
You know, I think too, we get into the roles where the moms do the kids and the guys are like, we'll be there for you on the weekend. And Justin talks about this. The default parent usually ends up being the wives. And the research on the power of a dad in the home is significant. The number of people who end up in jail, the percentage of them that don't have a father, that end up on drugs, that end up down all of these negative pathways. That if you hear the percentage that don't have a dad in the home, it's striking, it's shocking.
Yep.
And I think sometimes men, because they feel like they're in this other role, don't understand the significance of who they can be in the home. And so I think that this discipleship, these relationships are so valuable for that.
And I mean, this is a core conviction of mine. And we, back when Roger and I used to do VFL, I used to say this often, but you're never going to change our country through politics or through those. You're going to have to reach men, and you're going to have to restore the family structure, and keep men in their homes and discipling their kids and walking with their wives and growing. Because I believe that's the way God intended for it to be. And everything the enemy does, everything Satan does, is to try to fracture the home.
Rip that up. And he's been pretty successful, which is why we have a lot of the problems we have today. The only way you're going to change it is we need men, godly men, stepping up. And in some areas, we need them filling the gap where there aren't men in those homes for kids. So at least they have a positive Christian male role model. I saw Mark Krim here. Hope he listens, but he was here last night. I just happened to talk with him. But you know, the percentage of guys on his football team, he's a football coach at Lamar, fatherless, that he gets to at least be a little bit of a dad to, it's huge. It's huge.
He's ministering to kids that have no positive male
influence
role model in their entire life.
That's so good.
And he meets them where they are and loves them for who they are.
You know, they say that there's some, and I forget who the speaker is, and you may know, but he said that it's like juggling. You're juggling all these different roles, and you've got all these balls in the air. And he said that the work ball is the only one that's rubber. No matter what you do, when you throw work out, it's going to find its way back to you. But the other ones are glass. And hold on to the glass. Don't drop the glass. Just realize if you throw the work ball, it will make its way back. Yeah. And I thought, you're right. Work will always find you. And to really focus on those glass balls when you're juggling. I thought that was really interesting. So you've been at City Rise. You have been here for a while. You started in student ministry.
I did.
Back when you were the youth minister. I remember when Robby came on staff, and I was in the meeting where Robby was planning a ski trip, and I wanted to go as one of the adults on the ski trip.
You should have went.
Can you believe it?
We had a blast.
You've been here longer than I thought too, then. Not on staff, but like as part of this church.
Can you believe I've been in part of the church longer than Robby?
That's wild.
I've been part of Crosspoint Church since 2000. I want to say 18. No. 2008. 2008.
That sounds more like it.
Yeah.
When did you come? It should have been.
I started in 2010.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so they were planning a ski trip, and I was going to try and go. And I was like, I love
I never did ski trips as a youth pastor.
You didn't do that?
That and lock-ins. Those were things that I didn't do.
Lock-ins.
Oh, I did my share of lock-ins too.
Man, that was a big 80s, 90s thing. I'm so glad that's gone.
Yeah.
So when I first went on staff at Second Baptist, they used to have a deal called Mega Lock-In where they rented out an indoor, what do you call those places? Like it's got bowling alley, golf cart,
one of
like
those
main event.
main
entertainment.
event kind of deal. They rented
Right.
out the whole place and then they locked in 1,000 middle school students and thought that was a great idea.
For like 9 hours.
Yeah.
It was really fun.
Sleep
until
deprived, full of sugar. It was a great idea.
The only kids that were still up at 2 a.m. were the ones that were not making good choices.
Yeah.
And you have kids passed
Yes.
out everywhere. And then about 5
Yeah.
a.m., the donuts show up.
They're asleep on the bowling lanes and, putt golf course. And,
I hated
you're dragging them
lock-ins
out the
so
next
much.
morning by their ankles.
And it sounds like such a good, and it's funny is we finally let it go. It took forever to let
we
it
held
go
on for a long time.
because it became lockouts where
yes,
you had to go to event after event all
progressives
night
that went
long.
from one thing to the next.
and
to
you
the
would
next,
go do,
which I actually did here my first year.
you did a lockout.
There was already kind of, so Shannon was the youth pastor before me. He had already kind of laid out a summer calendar and he had one of those on there. So we went from like a go-kart track to one of those indoor trampoline places
Yep.
to like the adult inflatable place.
Oh man.
Somewhere
But
we
the
had
third
somebody had
place where
dinner
you're
in
just
there.
like, please.
I can remember, I have a picture somewhere of several of our students asleep in a bounce house at 11, 12 o'clock
I
at night.
remember. Yeah. Wait, what's
We-
the place where you shoot each other with the
The laser
gun.
tag.
laser
Yeah,
tag?
we did that too.
Wow. I mean,
We did them all. And we ended at the IHOP
Extreme.
the next morning.
Right. And the kids are barely up and
Yeah,
they're all
they're-
just like
they're not
shoving
happy.
syrup and
You don't want to
pancakes
be
in their
around them
mouths.
anymore.
But then you moved into discipleship
I did.
and you were in that space for a little while and you still work in discipleship in small groups, right?
I do. Yeah.
And
So it's
community groups.
kind of a progression. Yeah. So we, for a brief season, we decided we were going to have a kind of a family ministries model. I don't know if you remember that, where it's like I was over youth and children's and
I remember
KCV
that.
and all that stuff. And then from that, we kind of then divided those up between campus pastors. And then it was kind of this idea of we need somebody to really run discipleship and take over at that time, it was still Bible study, right? There was the old Sunday school model.
Right.
Take over the classes, revamp them, restructure them and all that. And then that kind of came along with, oh yeah, and also be the campus pastor. And oh yeah, also oversee youth and do pastoral care and benevolence and,
All right. And
and
also
women's ministry and
all the things.
all the things.
That's right. You oversee women's ministry, don't
do.
you? That's cool. So, so you've been here quite a while.
Wow.
It's been a lot of change.
It's been a lot of change, a lot of really good change.
And it's
Yeah.
been really great
It's been good.
experience. So,
It's interesting to see Roger from brand new as pastor to now. He's
That's
changed
true.
a lot. He's grown a lot,
it's true. It's like we've all gotten to watch
We've
Roger in some ways grow
grow
up.
up. It's exactly right.
I think
In a good way.
Right. When I began, he had just moved out of the youth role and they had gotten Shannon and Tanner to be the youth minister. And so I was watching him as a campus pastor at Crosspoint. That was the first time.
Yeah.
And then he got moved into the bigger space over everyone. That was wild. But it is kind of cool to watch him grow up. That's why I love it here so much. The longevity of the staff is so, like, people have been around for so long. It's kind of neat to see.
Yeah.
It's a sign that you're in a really good place to see
Yeah.
people stay for so long.
I think so.
So you are celebrating a really big day today.
I am.
You are celebrating, what year is this? What anniversary?
38.
38 years.
38 years of marriage.
You were married to Shelly Dobbs, who is
we got
amazing.
married when we were 10.
Right. So give it to me right now while we're kind of wrapping up the show. What are your three things that you would say this helps to shore up, this helps to create a strong
Ooh.
marriage?
So I say these things, but I have to preface it to say they were learned by doing everything wrong first. Over time, I grew to understand there are a few things that you can do to guarantee a successful marriage.
Right.
Serve your wife. lead them, but lead, and I mean, your wife and your family, but lead them with a servant heart. In other words, I want you to tell me what you think. I want to consider that. And then I want us to agree what's best for the family, not in a sense of, this is the way it's going to be.
Right.
There are those times that I did that.
That's good.
Doesn't go well. But, and then I would say that kind of a last thing is, have fun. If you know my wife,
She's fun.
we like to have fun.
She's funny. She's got a great.
We don't take things so seriously and get so hung up on, the aesthetics of it and the, whatever. We laugh at each other when we make mistakes. We call each other out in our mistakes. You know what I mean? It's kind of,
yeah, that's a healthy thing to do.
And we don't hold on to them very long. We kind of just say, we let it go.
Fun. That's good.
We try to have fun.
So thank you, Robby. This is great information.
Well, first of all, how do we, if we've got guys listening or spouses of guys listening, what's the best entry point for men's ministry? And then maybe what are some things coming up that you're excited about in men's ministry?
Good stuff. So we actually have a lot going on for men. So every Tuesday morning, we have a men's Bible study that meets right here at West U down in the chapel. It's early. We gather for coffee and kolaches about 6:15. The study starts about 6:30 in the morning. Easy entry point because it's just guys sitting around a table. Different pastors teach each Tuesday morning. We're walking through Exodus this semester. So Roger just started us this past Tuesday, and it's going to be a great study. That's an easy way. Less formal, but also less threatening. I do a breakfast at Buffalo Grill every Thursday morning. Men of all ages come and we just break bread and open God's word and talk, study, and those kind of things. And then we do have some events coming up. February 23rd, we have a father-daughter sock hop coming up. We're going to have a father-son retreat in April coming up. We have a father-son fishing trip in late May, early June, depending on whenever the last day of school is. And then also intentional personal discipleship. You can jump into it anytime. We have about 35 or so guys who have been trained and gone through a discipleship training process who are open, ready, and available to start walking with men in intentional personal discipleship today. And you can just call my office or contact me or find me or whatever, and I can connect you with guys. We try to partner them up based on similar backgrounds and similar ages and stages and things like that. But, and then we just, put them together, and then they can determine what works for their schedule, like when the best time and all that. And then they just go.
That sounds
great. We
have
about 20 guys going through, and between the two campuses, we have about 20 guys going through discipleship right now.
That's great. That sounds like a wonderful opportunity. That sounds good. Thanks so much. Fun. So we do have a get to know you question.
Okay.
This is going to take a little while to think, Justin, and I know it's going to take you a while too. What has been your worst idea in ministry? We've all been in ministry for a long time.
I'll answer first, so you have time to think.
What's a ministry idea that afterwards it was like, man, that was a bad idea?
I've had a lot.
That was a bad idea. I can go first on this.
Yeah, go first.
I may have already told you guys about this, but when I was a student, I was a student director at one point. I was a youth minister. And I got my whole youth group to go to Birmingham. This is when I was in Pensacola, Florida. I'm like, we're going to drive to Birmingham and we're going ice skating. And so I got all the kids, I planned the trip. We rented a van, or we went on the church van, and we all got on the van. We drove all the way to Birmingham, and we get to the mall, and I never called to ask what their skate times were. I never called to see if they'd be open. And we get up there, and it's not open skate at all. Like, the rink is closed, and I have taken my entire youth group there. So basically
so it was a several-hour trip to the mall is what it was.
Yeah. It was a 8-hour day to eat in the food court and walk around a mall for an hour and a half.
Wow.
So I got a lot of emails on that.
Yeah.
A lot of parents just like, why? What were you thinking? I thought they were going to be ice skating. This wasn't what. Anyway, it was a lot. But that was one of my worst ideas. That was a huge lesson learned.
Yeah. What's funny for student ministry is you always, like, for me, you plan events and think this is gonna be really awesome. And then when somebody gets injured, you're kind of directly responsible for that injury. Like, even though you weren't, you know what I'm saying? So there's been a couple months where kids have gotten hurt and I'm like, ooh, geez, I'm not going to plan this. Yeah, I planned the activity. So in my first church, they were really, really into games. And I was not really a games guy, but I knew it was important to them. So every Wednesday night before, youth group, we would do a game. Like, sometimes it's just like a trivia game or a fun game, minute to win it game. But we had a big field in the back behind the church. So I was like, let me go out. It's a nice day. Let's like do a really big fun, opening game. And like the first time I decided to do this physical opening game, this girl like breaks her arm. And I'm like, what am I like? I'm trying to be the fun youth pastor, and the game I played, gets, and another time I took this is at camp, you always get somebody injured, and they were playing this game where they threw like sponges at each other, like water dodgeball almost. They're these big like car sponges. I didn't plan this, so it really wasn't my fault. But one girl got pegged on the side of the head, and the vacuum was such that it burst her eardrum.
Oh no.
And so just the variety of ways that kids can get hurt when you're in charge of them on trips and games is just really difficult to manage. And, I wouldn't say it was my bad ideas that did it, but it is like things that I was directly responsible for creating. Kids,
it's almost like
kids walked away. Kids walked away with a war story. Right?
I did not see that coming. So Robby?
Oh my goodness. I have so many. I was thinking, as Justin was telling that story, I was thinking of at second, we used to have this deal where we'd line the kids around the lines of the gym, and then we would number them off, and then we would have things in the middle, and you just called the number, and like 3, all the 3s would run together. And we had done it several times, and somebody, it might have been me, thought it would enhance it if we put plastic trash cans over their head.
Oh no.
And so now they're running blindly. And one of the kids runs blindly. He's a 6'3" football player, and he hits our music minister's daughter, who's about, 5'2" and 100 pounds. And
killed her.
hit the gym floor.
Oh.
Concussions.
She goes flying.
Yeah.
Oh.
But the worst, I think, is saw it online. It's this great deal. It was one of these giant balls that you can get inside.
Yes.
And you run them down hills.
They
and
still
stuff.
do that.
Okay.
Yes.
Saw it online. It was this massive ball, and they advertised it that you could put it on this track, and it's foam filled, and they squirt foam and water as you go down the hill. Man, it looks so great.
It looks so great.
So I get in there with about 6 students.
To the big giant ball.
And as soon as the ball starts going, you're not running like a hamster on a wheel. You're being thrown around to where at one point I remember I'm on the bottom of the ball, and I'm watching students fall from the sky on top of me.
Gosh.
And I can't stop it.
Oh, geez.
And it's like being in a washing machine. And it felt like the ride. And if I told you the students, you'd know who some of them were. But it felt like a ride that would never end. And it ends in a big foam pit where foam is being manufactured. Well, the hole you come out of was upside down. So you're going out of the hole of it into 10 feet deep of foam.
Oh,
and so people are sucking foam in, they're coughing. And literally we had people had to come in there and drag kids out of the foam pit.
Wow.
So terrible.
And I was like, what was I thinking? It looked so good on paper. It did not go well.
That was
That's wild.
Thankfully, we didn't have Justin or any camera crews around
Yeah, no
catching
proof.
recording, and there's no proof of
No
it.
proof.
There might be a few kids with some cell phone photos, but and there was a point halfway down the track of this race of horror. I can remember thinking, I'm going to be fired tomorrow. I'm confident I'm going to be fired tomorrow.
not only am I going to be dead,
Yeah,
I'm also going to be
me
fired.
and several students are going to be seriously injured, and I'm not going to have a job.
But here you are, promoted.
Yeah. Here I am.
Well, thank you,
survived.
Robby. Thank you so much. That was great. Thank you for being with us today.
Yes, we'd love for you if you want to find out more about what men are doing in our church, cityrise.org/men. You can find all sorts of links and information about what's happening with that ministry. If you enjoyed the show, we'd love for you to like it, subscribe, send it to people, rate, review, all those things would be great. And as always, you can email us at podcast@cityrise.org if you have ideas for people that we can talk to.
All right. Thank you, Justin. Thanks, Robby.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for being with us. We hope you've had an almost amazing time on the Almost Amazing podcast.
Thanks for listening to the Almost Amazing podcast from the City Rise Network based in Houston, Texas. City Rise is a partnership of church campuses, nonprofits, and missionaries devoted to lifting our city and the world by generously giving the gospel of Jesus Christ. For more information or to find a church campus close to you in the Houston area, visit cityrise.org.